I've got some juicy trade rumors coming your way today. And if you're a Raiders fan or just love keeping up with NFL offseason moves, this one's going to catch your attention. I'm Mitchell Renz, and today we're diving deep into a rumor that CBS recently dropped. A potential trade involving Tampa Bay Buccaneers quarterback Jamal Dean heading to the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, I want to be upfront with you all. This trade might not be the most likely to happen. But here's how I like to run this kind of show in the offseason if it piques my interest. I want to talk about it. No clickbait, no fluff, just real talk and honest breakdowns. When I first started doing this, I'd look at what big sports outlets like CBS, ESPN, and Fox Sports were saying, break down their ideas, and share my own 2 cents on what that could mean for the Raiders. That's exactly what you're getting here today. So let's get into it. Why would a trade for Jamal Dean make sense for the Raiders? By the time you finish watching this, I think you'll either say, yeah, I could absolutely see that happening, or no, that's not really the player the Raiders need. The first thing to know is that Jamal Dean has been surrounded by trade and cut rumors for most of this offseason. It's not like I've been obsessively watching every move the Buccaneers make, but as someone who covers the whole NFL, I can tell you his name has popped up constantly as a guy who might be on the move. If you want a comparison, think about a player like Dylan Parham. Not exactly the same situation, but both players feel like candidates that their current teams might be willing to move on from. The logic is simple. If Tampa Bay cuts or trades Dean, they save almost $13 million in cap space, which is huge. That's a lot of breathing room for a team looking to make moves. For the Raiders, this opens up an opportunity to add a player with solid talent if they can snag him now. I'd be surprised if Tampa Bay actually cuts him outright. More likely, they'll look for a trade. CBS's take on the situation was that Dean's 6-year run with the Buccaneers has been highlighted by a Super Bowl championship and a big money contract extension. But with a $15 million cap hit looming in 2025, Tampa Bay is motivated to find a way to clear that space. Almost all of that cap hit could be wiped off their books. If Dean is traded elsewhere, that's a big deal, especially for a team that's trying to retool its roster while sticking with the same head coach and general manager. Tampa Bay's leadership isn't brand new, they just extended their contracts. So this move wouldn't be about new management wanting their own guys. Instead, it's more about the team's draft strategy and roster construction. Look at what Tampa Bay did recently. They drafted Benjamin Morrison, a quarterback from Notre Dame, in the 2nd round at pick number 53. If you've followed my takes on the draft, you know Morrison was one of my favorite targets for the Raiders at pick 37. He slipped a bit because of some medical concerns, but he's a reliable player. Tampa Bay also added Jacob Parrish, a cornerback from Kansas State, who I think will mostly play nickel corner in the NFL but has experience playing outside corner in college. Parrish is undersized, but sometimes those smaller players play way bigger than their size suggests, and that can be a real asset in the secondary. When you look at the Buccaneers' defensive backfield now, they have solid depth with some young talent if the coaching staff believes in Parrish and Morrison as part of the future. Moving on from Dean doesn't seem so crazy. Plus, cutting ties with Dean makes it easier financially, since his contract has zero guaranteed money left, which means Tampa Bay can move on without taking a big financial hit. Another big reason why a trade might happen is the connection between Jamal Dean and John Spytek, who is now with the Raiders. Spytek was a key part of the Tampa Bay organization for years and played a big role in their decision to draft Dean back in the 2019 NFL Draft. He was with Tampa Bay from 2019 until 2024, a period when the team saw a lot of success, including that Super Bowl win with Tom Brady. Knowing that Spytek was heavily involved in drafting Dean and was part of the coaching staff during some of those championship seasons gives this rumor some extra weight. Plus, Tom Brady's time in Tampa Bay overlapped with Dean's first few years, which creates another layer of connection. So, if you think about it, the Raiders getting Jamal Dean wouldn't just be a random move, it would be a reunion of sorts with a player who's familiar to someone in their coaching staff and who was part of a winning culture in Tampa Bay. That kind of familiarity can make a difference when it comes to trades and fit. This is why I can't completely rule out the possibility. In the NFL, nothing is impossible. Now, I want to pause here and invite you to chime in after hearing all this. Should the Raiders trade for Jamal Dean? If you're all in, just type trade in the comments. If you're not interested, Type pass. I'll share my own answer a little later, but I don't want to sway your opinions just yet. Moving on. Let's talk about Dean's health and his impact on the Raiders roster if this trade goes down. Honestly, if Jamal Dean is 100% healthy, I believe he'd be the best cornerback on the Raiders roster this upcoming season. Now, that's a big if. And it's important to highlight that Dean's injury history is a real concern over 6 NFL seasons. He's missed a total of 18 games and has never played a full 16-game season. The most games he has played in one season is 15, so durability is definitely a question mark. When you look at his performance, last year's Pro Football Focus grade was the lowest of his career, a 68.3 overall grade. In 2023, his last 2 seasons have arguably been the worst of his career. But even with that, he's shown he can cover well when healthy. Last season, he had 7 passes defended and 1 interception, which is respectable. However, his quarterback rating allowed last year was 91.2, the second highest of his career. That stat only went above 90 twice in his entire career. He did give up some touchdowns and was targeted quite a bit. But you have to remember Tampa Bay's offense was scoring a lot, which often forces defenses to play from behind, making the secondary's job even harder. Now, from the Raiders' perspective, Dean's contract is pretty manageable for both sides. He has 2 years left on his deal, but 0 guaranteed money, which makes it an easy move for Tampa Bay if they want to cut ties down the road. For Las Vegas, this would likely be a prove-it type deal, probably for 1 year, to see if Dean can stay healthy and perform at a high level. On the open market, a player of Dean's caliber might be worth around $12.5 million a year, but that's mostly during the frenzy of free agency. Signing him mid-year or through a trade would probably mean a little less guaranteed money, which again benefits the Raiders. I want to be clear, while I think Dean could make the Raiders better, I'm not convinced he's the best option available. The Raiders have other players like Stephon Gilmore, who might not have Dean's exact skill set but could be healthier, and Russell Douglas, who might not play as well as Dean but has a better chance to stay on the field. There's also Mike Hilton, and free agent options like Justin Simmons and Julian Blackmon that could address the team's defensive needs without requiring a trade or draft pick. Before we jump to conclusions, I'll also share a few trade ideas I've been thinking about, including some proposals involving draft picks to give you an idea of what this trade could look like. But that's coming up next. Alright, let's dive into the next part and unpack some trade ideas and the bigger picture for both the Raiders and the Buccaneers. Now, I want to be upfront here. While the thought of Jamal Dean coming to Las Vegas is exciting, it's not a slam dunk. There are a lot of moving parts, and understanding what Tampa Bay actually needs is key to figuring out what a trade might look like. From what I've gathered, Tampa Bay's roster is pretty complete on both sides of the ball. Offensively and defensively, they have solid depth and a lot of pieces that fit well together. They've clearly invested in building a competitive team, which is why it makes sense that they might look to move on from a player like Dean, especially with younger talent waiting in the wings. If you think about it, John Spytek and the Raiders front office might try to replicate what Tampa Bay has done, building a roster with strong starters and reliable depth. So, any trade proposal has to make sense for both teams in terms of roster construction. Now, focusing on Tampa Bay's needs, one of the bigger gaps I've heard about is at interior linebacker. That's an area where they could use some help, and it gives the Raiders a potential bargaining chip. For example, a trade could involve the Raiders offering a mid to late round draft pick and maybe a player like Tommy Eichenberg, an interior linebacker, to Tampa Bay in exchange for Jamal Dean. That's a realistic scenario that benefits both sides. Tampa Bay fills a need, and the Raiders get a cornerback who could be a starter if healthy. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on our Las Vegas Raiders. And don't be shy, drop your thoughts on the news in the comments below. Rich Gannon, the former NFL MVP and longtime quarterback for the Oakland Raiders, has sent shockwaves through the league with a surprising statement, hinting at the future of the Raiders franchise. In a recent interview, Gannon, who remains closely connected to the team and its history, dropped what many are calling a bombshell. He hinted that the Raiders might be on the verge of a major shift that could redefine their identity in the coming years. Though Gannon was careful not to confirm any concrete plans, his comments have sparked intense speculation among fans and analysts alike. Could this mean a return to Oakland, a bold new direction in Las Vegas, Or perhaps even a more dramatic move entirely, the Raiders, known for their rebellious image and passionate fan base, have been at the center of rumors regarding ownership, changes, potential relocations, and organizational shakeups ever since their move to Las Vegas in 2020. Gannon's cryptic remarks have only fueled these conversations. The former quarterback, who was instrumental in some of the Raiders' most memorable moments in the early 2000s, suggested that the franchise might be considering moves beyond just player signings and coaching changes. There's more brewing behind the scenes than most people realize. Gannon hinted, the Raiders have always been about defying expectations, and I think we're about to see something unexpected again. With the Raiders struggling to find consistent success on the field recently, many wonder if this something unexpected could be tied to new management strategies, high-profile acquisitions, or even structural changes within the franchise. Industry insiders are buzzing about possible ownership discussions that could shake the foundation of the team, or innovative partnerships aimed at elevating the Raiders' brand on a national scale. The timing of Gannon's statement is curious as well, coming just before the NFL offseason, a period ripe for deals and decisions that could reshape rosters and strategies. His words might be more than idle speculation. Some experts believe he might be signaling upcoming announcements that will catch even the most devoted fans off guard. As rumors swirl, fans are left wondering what the future holds for a team with such a storied and turbulent history. Will the Raiders surprise everyone with a move back to their roots? Or are they planning something entirely new that could change the landscape of the NFL? For now, Gannon's comments remain a tantalizing mystery, adding fuel to the fire of what is already one of the most talked about franchises in professional football. Stay tuned, because if history has taught us anything about the Raiders, it's that when they shake things up, the NFL takes notice. And if Rich Gannon is any indication, the next chapter for this iconic team could be closer than anyone expects. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay updated with exclusive news about our Las Vegas Raiders, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. We can't wait to hear your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next video.